what are the metrics? What should we be measuring, both in terms of quality and responsiveness, but also in terms of the metrics around our own sales teams, right? How do we decide which of our salespeople are doing a good job these days? Is it still just sales? Is it more than that? Is it engagement? Is it repeat customers? Jeremy, do you have any sense for that, for what you see with your clients?
Yeah, for me, and as I managed reps over the years, I think we kind of get trapped in the metrics piece, especially when it comes to final results, revenue, and number of deals closed. But for me, I've been a big believer in managing activity and measuring that, because that equals results. And you, at that point, also don't stress over what you can't control, in my opinion. I always tell people, if you think sales is high pressure, then you're just doing it wrong, right? Because you're saving everything for the last minute to close in the third quarter, fourth quarter, whatever the case may be. And most of you probably agree with me. These days, pressuring a buyer to buy, let alone buy at a certain time, will always backfire. Especially these days when they have all the information that they need accessible, and you really can't put that pressure on them. So I always say, as long as you have a full pipeline, you have people that say, I'm not ready to make a decision until 6 months from now. Well, then good. I have that person to follow up with in 4 to 5 months, or whatever the case may be. But as long as the pipeline is full and there are quality deals in there, then there's really never a reason to worry about that. I always focus on the activity, right? And measuring the process. So how many people have I presented a demo to? How many people have I did a discovery call with? How many proposals are pending out there? Those are how you measure, in my opinion, the quality of the deals that you're working in, and what's most important to measure. Now, obviously, as a CEO of a company who's trying to meet a number for Wall Street, that might be a little different. But when I'm in the front lines, that's and as a leader, that's what I'm looking for. Is what are you doing today that you can control?
I just want to add that I agree with what you're saying, Jeremy. And it's very hard to do, because there is the pressure to close and have revenue. But I think the challenge we're all facing now more than ever is the people we're dealing with. They're working in companies that have gone through tremendous changes. I mean, their budgets have changed. Their business plans have changed. Some of them don't even know. Like when you ask, well, what's your, but they don't know the answer. What's your approval process? They don't know the answer anymore. And that's why these buying cycles have taken longer and are so uncertain. So I think it requires us as marketers to have this nurturing component built into our marketing processes, where we can continue to engage with the client without pressuring them, feed their need for information along the way, and be there very responsive when they are ready to buy. And a lot of the traditional marketing processes are not built that way. So I think it requires some re-engineering of the marketing process to accommodate that. Again, I go back to the customer experience. The more you can have an outstanding customer experience, and that starts in the first time they engage with you, the more successful you'll be. How do you create that relationship and remove the friction?
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, and a follow-on to that is that, and I know we've noticed in our business that there seems to be more decision makers than there have been in the past, right? And it could be a function of us working with larger companies where they now have, corporate HR departments also. It's hard to know for sure, but regardless, it seems like there's more than one cook in the kitchen, right? When it comes to making a decision about using our services. So that begs the question, how do you create the right kind of content when you've got several different, decision makers? And then how do you engage all of them, right? Do you send, 3 different texts? Do you send 3 different thank you notes? Do you send 3 different gifts? Do you, invite all 3 of them to follow you on Instagram? Jeremy, do you have any insights about that, with that broadening out of decision making?
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to what I said earlier, it has to be highly targeted and highly customized to the specific buyer, depending on what their function is within the organization. You know, if you're talking to IT, you're gonna have a different conversation with purchasing. And you're right, these days it's gonna be multiple decision makers. And it's funny because I was talking to somebody the other day and, talking about being in sales, it's like, I'm not, 10, 15 years ago when I was in sales, it's a lot different, right? Because you actually were, you kind of had to be the expert in your product solution industry. Nowadays, like I said, everybody has access to that. And a lot of times, sometimes they know more than you do about your own product in a weird way, because they have access to reviews online. They have access to, all kinds of things. So you have to connect, what I was saying was, as a salesperson today, I'm not even a salesperson. I kind of say I'm an over glorified project manager. I have to connect the dots. I have to understand, to Art's point, sometimes you're talking to the right person, but things change. They don't know what that new process is. I don't know how to get budgets approved. That's where you have to do your due diligence and investigate. And then you find out and you go back to that person and you say, hey, I think this might be the route to go. And you make that recommendation. My other client, they need to talk to so-and-so. Do you have access to that person? Right. And so that's where you have to be that person to take control, lead your buyer and teach them how to buy. Right. So I always tell people, you got to teach your buyer how to buy, because they need the product, they want it, whether it's they're going to go with you or somebody else. What makes you different is that you're teaching them and leading them in the direction that helps them make that decision faster.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, and I think, to Art's point before also, just about, kind of retraining people, and to your point as well about teaching your buyer how to buy, it takes a different mindset and a willingness to make a change also. Even for us, for example, we debated for a number of years whether or not we should include our pricing for our solutions for recruiting on our website. And I've had the same discussion with other firms that are in the services sector as well. Are you taking the bat out of your own hand if you just give the pricing on your website? And we ultimately decided actually a few months ago, because we have a second solution now also, that we were going to do it. So we now have a side-by-side matrix on our website that shows the specifics of what we offer with both of our solutions and the pricing model as well. And we figure, these days people are going to find it anyway, to your point, right, Jeremy? Because there's so much access to so much information out there. But it changes the conversation. Now we know that the leads are coming in. Chances are pretty good they've seen that. They have a good idea what we do and how we do it. Now we can get into the meat of the conversation and not focus so much on the pricing aspect.
100% agree. Sometimes I'll talk to some of my clients, especially in the SaaS world, where it's pretty common to have some sort of pricing on your website. And it's like, well, I don't want my competitors to see. I don't want them to, and it's, you don't have to disclose everything, but at least have something to where the buyer has some idea to go, okay, well, I have an idea that this, because a lot of times it's just getting rid of that sticker shock, or they think it's way more expensive than it really is. And they think, oh, it's only this much a month. I was thinking I was going to spend $100,000, right? So sometimes it's just easing that and then getting to the conversation. And like you said, it's not that difficult for a customer to do enough research, whether it's, again, reviews, a current customer of yours they can talk to via LinkedIn. They can look at your competitors. So at the end of the day, they'll have some inclination regardless.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's also, for us, it's a little bit of self-selection. I'd rather spend my time with 5 relevant, viable leads that I know are the right fit versus talking to, 10 people, all of whom are just, it's way too junior of a position, or they don't have the resources or the funding that they need, to pay our fee. I'd rather have a much more streamlined conversation with fewer people. Yeah. Yeah. Art, what was your thought?
Yeah, no, I think this part of the conversation highlights just how important the employee is in this process. When we talk about teaching the buyer how to buy, our salespeople, our marketers, they have to be, effective communicators and representatives of the brand. And one of the points I wanted to make about the overall customer experience is how important the employee experience is as a key success factor to the customer experience. And this is something that our research has really highlighted this past year, and more so than ever, you know, with remote workforces, that the companies that are investing in their employee experience and training them how to effectively engage with the customer, how to leverage the technology, how to you know, not be impaired by working remotely instead of in the office. The companies that are, you know, making that happen and delivering an outstanding employee experience are in turn delivering the best customer experiences.
Right,
And
right.
that's a big paradigm shift for a lot of companies, you know, to
Yeah, I
think
agree.
about the employees in that regard.